What's up, Flick fans? I was excited about this premise. The idea of seeing everything happen through the perspective of the spirit kind of reminds me of last year in A Violent Nature through the perspective of the killer, and this had a very ghost story feel to it. So, does it work or is it scary? That's weird.
What's it like?
And again, very simple. A family moves into a suburban house and becomes convinced that they are not alone. This is rated R. Stars Julia Fox, Lucy Liu, Chris Sullivan. It's written by David Koepp, who wrote movies like Mission Impossible, Spider-Man, helped with Jurassic Park, so that's a big deal. And then you got Steven Soderbergh, who of course directed some of the Ocean's movies, Magic Mike, Logan Lucky, but lately he's been directing a lot, from Unsane to No Sudden Move to High Flying Bird, and it feels like he's got 2 to 3 movies a year. There are 2 movies coming out this year that he directed. Has he cloned himself like The Rock?
This is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them.
Again, I love when a movie combines simple with creative beautifully. And I'm not going to say they executed this to perfection in maybe the way that I was hoping for, but the basic idea stands. And it stands from the get-go where you're just kind of following around these characters as they're communicating, conversing, talking about the recent tragedies in the life of this young girl. And she, our daughter, is kind of the focus here. She's got a good relationship with her dad. Her brother has a great relationship with his mom. Things aren't going great between them. Lots of fights, arguments, but it mostly, again, is circling what happened to our young girl and what she experienced, the trauma that comes with that. And, you know, I'm going to answer the question that I'm posing in the thumbnail. Is this movie scary? I would say this film is heavier and more emotional than I expected, but it's not as nearly as scary as a lot of people are going to want going in. I think the idea of a spirit inhabiting this house, but seeing everything through its perspective sounds scary on its surface, and Soderbergh is a guy who can do that, even though he's not known for horror. But this is more of a film about trauma, the tragedies of someone's past, how it's literally haunting them and pushing them in a direction, but it's all going somewhere that inevitably does pay off. But the question is, and it's going to be for a lot of people, is the buildup worth the payoff? And to that, I would answer probably not. And I'm not saying Presence is bad by any means, but there are so many moments where you're looking at the acting and the performances. Maybe it's the dialogue that they are given, and there is a natural feel to everything happening here. It kind of reminds me of Here from last year, where you saw everything going down through one viewpoint, one perspective, but this time we're moving around, we're going throughout the house because you are essentially a spirit. So sometimes you're hiding in a closet, other times you're just right up next to him like this. And I don't want you to think this is all for nothing, because surprisingly enough, it wasn't all for nothing. I did get a nice payoff at the end. There are a couple of things that happen along the way to where you may be hesitant to even stick around. Like, is it worth my time? And again, it is a slow, lingering buildup with some creativity. Absolutely. There's a look to this movie that may take some getting used to, and there is the fact that it's edited together in such a strange way. Like, we were constantly cutting to black. Around every corner, we're cutting to black, which is signifying we're moving on to the next day, the next hour. We're passing some time here. We pass a lot of time in this film, but as this progressed, I got a little more used to the style, and I'm sitting here thinking 20 minutes in, all right, this is interesting. I do wish the dialogue was a little better, but hopefully we get a payoff. And again, we get there. But there's about an hour in the middle of all this to where I'm thinking to myself, maybe we could have moved a little bit quicker. And I think the pacing really suffers in the middle of this film. And there are some things that happen with the character, and I get it. There are moments that are integral to the plot as a whole, but there's some things that are happening to where my audience, which only consisted of about 10 people, a lot of them were laughing at certain lines of dialogue in certain moments that weren't supposed to be funny. And that's not to say it's horrible quality, but it doesn't always land. But through all of these issues, there is an admirable quality to this film as a whole, to where it screams creativity. And as a sucker for a movie like A Ghost Story, I think that film is great from start to finish. I know a lot of people don't like it. I feel like there's going to be a similar reaction to Presence, even though it's way less artsy than a movie like The Ghost Story. This is much more audience-friendly, but it doesn't quite have the filmmaking, the performances up to that standard, right? There are things about it that were a little rough along the way, so it's a rocky experience to get to some of these payoffs, which are inevitably interesting, and when the ghost actually makes itself known, it's in the trailer, you're kind of aware that that's coming, it is kind of cool. Not scary. It's not a scary film, but it's a movie that could emotionally haunt you. That doesn't sound too intriguing when I say it out loud, but inevitably, there's going to be payoff for some people. I did enjoy the ending. I thought it worked very well, but I thought the build-up to that point was just kind of lingering, prodding. I didn't fully buy into it, and there were numerous points where, a 90-minute runtime, I'm kind of looking at the watch going, all right, when are we going to get there? And
how long is this going to take?
So before I give you my score, did you enjoy Presence? What's the best horror movie of the year, of the month, I guess? And if you want to like this review, be sure to like this review. Do you hear something back there? I'm just freaking me out. I don't know what it is. I don't like this. Presence proves to be more of an emotionally haunting experience rather than one that terrifies. The concept of following this family through the eyes of the spirit is brilliant, and there's shades of that brilliance throughout, but the hour of build-up features pacing that holds much of the momentum. The dialogue doesn't always land, and the payoff may not be worth the lackluster experience as a whole. So, again, a lot to respect here. Didn't quite land for me, but you know what could land? The new Mel Gibson, Mark Wahlberg movie on a plane. And I'll be reviewing that tomorrow. What's it called again? Flight Risk? All right, we're going to land the plane. That all came together beautifully. Okay, see you soon.